That's why I hate like lumping in all BreadTube together. 'Cause, like Vosh and I don't know, fucking Destiny or whoever these other people are just so different than like
The debate
not like Sean,
bros.
for instance. Yeah, the debate bros versus like some of the other people.
All right. Hi, welcome to our podcast, Barely Even Friends. It is me, Kyle, your host, and with me again is
June,
I forgot how to say your name again. Uh,
June. I guess say
June.
June, like
Okay,
June, like the
June
month.
Sinkara.
Yeah,
We're gonna be talking about BreadTube today, everyone's favorite YouTube.
favorite YouTube topic.
Yeah, well, subreddit. They don't even like calling
Yeah.
themselves BreadTube.
No, exactly. Um, yeah, I mean, there's not much to say, like, there's a lot to say, but I think BreadTube, I first started watching a few years ago. I think honestly, starting with ContraPoints, and then I forget, I watched some. I was mostly interested in just kind of like the debunking the alt right stuff and the stuff from like crypto fascists and all that stuff. And then I feel like that content has generally died down across BreadTube in the past few years, and now it's on like different philosophical topics. Or it might be go vote for Biden, or it might even be just like kind of dismissing any other radical left wing, I guess, sects.
Well, I didn't really watch Contra until like last year. I
Yeah,
kind of started watching Indo. First I watched like blah blah blah. Innuendo. There we
innuendo.
go.
Yeah,
Innuendo Studios. With
yeah,
his
yeah,
like
yeah.
the alt right playbook and that stuff.
That's one. That was one of the first ones I watched too.
Yeah, him, and then like I still only I was watching a lot of like uh oh yeah, like TV show and like movie review stuff. And
Yeah.
like, they kept ending up being like fascist, like a sub like crypto fascist, like this shit sucks. And like I
Oh
accidentally found
damn.
like some decent ones. Like
Yeah.
I think Jack Saint. Then like somehow it more or less led me to um down like a rabbit hole.
Yeah.
Well, I didn't even really start like watching Contra and like Philosophy tube because I until I joined like the BreadTube server and like I watched Vosh for like a little bit and he mentioned Contra and I like looked her up and I watched some of her videos.
Yeah. I think she honestly took down a lot of her older videos too, actually.
Yeah, because it was like her pre-transition videos.
Yeah, which makes sense. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think for me too, I think I watched like some ContraPoints and I stumbled across like a philosophy tube, and then I was really into her for like a while. I think honestly, in my opinion, I feel like she's the only one who's actually all like the major BreadTube personalities who seems to have actually read Marx per se. Not that she's like, I don't know if she's, I think she'll call herself Marxist, not a Marxist Leninist, but I don't know. I always liked her content.
I think she's like definitely a communist. Like,
Yeah. Honestly, she might be an anarchist. I'm
yeah.
not too sure. She obviously doesn't say. At this point, she seems like she's pretty um, making good income as well. So she might be a little bit deluded in her politics.
She's gonna get become a class trader. Well, she's heading to
Well,
become
you'd hope she'd be a class trader, because if not, if she's just going for class politic,
Yeah, it's true.
then
I,
yeah,
yeah, Philosophy is one of my favorites. Like, she makes a lot of good videos, and she actually posts like frequently compared to like Sean and like H Bomber Guy and Contra.
yeah. I mean, not that it's like an expectation, but I mean, just when you like, if you're gonna give your Patreon money to someone, she has like an actual schedule and like keeps up with it.
Yeah, she posts at least once
Um,
a month.
yeah,
And then you never know with like Contra, H Bomber Guy, or Sean when they're gonna post anything.
yeah. I mean, like, yeah, it's her content, but she's making what, like, at least hundreds of thousands of dollars a
Well,
month.
Contra has like a lot of production value. Though. That's why I like her videos a lot, to be honest.
Yeah, no, they're very high production. I feel like philosophy tubes are about the same level.
Yeah.
Maybe a little bit lower. Yeah, this is a whole thing of philosophy tube potentially copying Contra, but I don't want to get into that, obviously.
Yeah, anything's possible. Like, Philosophy Tube has like has really good content even without it. Well, to be fair, I only watched her videos that have like her dressed up in like costumes and stuff. I didn't really watch any of the ones with her sitting in by a bookcase and explaining topics.
I've watched like all of them. Not all of the videos, but a lot of them.
I really liked her anti-Semitism video and the transgender video as well.
Oh, that was really good. I think I really liked from Philosophy Tube. I think honestly Philosophy Tube and Contra both had a similar video. I'm not sure if Contra is still up, but it had one like the apocalypse.
Yeah, I think the both.
Yeah, I know Philosophy Tube that was like geared towards climate change. I really liked that video as well. And honestly, the ContraPoints, I didn't like in the past. I mean, besides her like anti-fascist videos, she had a video on like opulence, which I thought was like pretty decent. And I thought it was interesting because I think it was that video, right? Or was it a different video where she was talking about like different rich people and how they try to like hide their class to be like working class kind of thing. Yeah.
The nouveau rich are like people who got their new money, and like old rich who people know you should hide your money so people don't get jealous.
Exactly. Yeah. I don't know.
That's the
what were you gonna say?
I was gonna say that's the whole thing with capitalism because it created the nouveau riche. Because you just had the aristocrat old money, who more or less got their titles and like land through their connections with like royalty, and like they usually were related or they fought for like a king or someone, and they got titles and stuff. Or they chose the right side in a civil war.
Yeah. I mean, it even goes back to like doesn't the terms go back to like the end of like feudal France or something?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because you have,
and I guess even
the bourgeois who are like rising from commerce and like colonialism.
Yeah. And I guess that's a thing in like the 20th century too, right? Where we have people who have like these estates from like centuries, and then like in the American context, and then you have like people who are getting wealthy on the new like industrial boom or even like tech boom more recently.
Yeah, because you have like the old money from like the original like industrialists, like the Morgans, the Vanderbilts.
Well, Anderson Cooper.
Yeah, exactly.
The Vanderbilt
Anderson Cooper was a Vanderbilt until I like learned who his mom was. So like, oh, he's a Vanderbilt. He's super rich.
Yeah, it's kind of wild. Yeah.
Yeah, then like you find out like he didn't even go to college or anything for like journalism. He just like got a job as a journalist.
I didn't even know that. I didn't even know that.
Yeah, no, yeah, he doesn't have a degree in like journalism or anything. Like, I know he has a degree in something, but it's unrelated to journalism.
Yeah, I mean, it seems like his thing is that he kind of just is like, I'm handsome. I mean, I guess that's what he thinks. He may be a little handsome, to be honest. And then, that's about it.
Well, you also have like the Rockefellers, who were like really heavy in like the Republican side of politics. And like governors, like they were more or less the moderate Republicans in the East Coast, like the ones who were like actually not racist.
Yeah.
Well, the ones who didn't actively support white supremacy, like segregation.
Yeah, the ones who were tied like the Ku Klux Klan.
Yeah.
Oh no. Yeah.
Because you have like the southern like aristocrats who were like got their money from slavery.
Yeah. I was off topic, but I guess even like Tucker Carlson's kind of like I guess like almost like a new rich kind of person, right? Because his family was like what was it? You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, I know what you're talking about. His family's like rich as fuck.
Yeah, it's like the food company or whatever.
Yeah, it's pretty funny because he gets like all his money from oil billionaires and stuff, like the Koch brothers. He just says whatever. Yeah. He says whatever they need to tell him. He's literally practicing like what fascists do, where they say populist things but lead people down to a racist conclusion. Like, it's not the rich people's fault that you're losing your jobs to immigrants, or they're getting like your jobs are getting exported outside the country. It is the immigrants' fault. It's the third world country. It's the black people's fault. They're burning your cities down or whatever. All the dumb shit.
Yeah, he's surprisingly good at sleight of hand. I feel like
he talks of class consciousness and like populism, but he leads people to class collaboration and racism.
Yeah, the funniest videos where he'll talk to someone on the left and be like, well, if that's socialism, like, I'm all for it.
Yeah, like, he'll agree with everything that person says. Then, like, the very next episode, he's calling all that shit evil.
Yeah. It's totalitarian.
Yeah, exactly. It's a whole
Yeah,
thing. I think. I wonder. I think it's because I feel like most working class people, when they hear about like socialism, communism, and stuff, their natural inclination is to support it. So you have to use like nefarious like ways to like more or less trick people.
yeah. Well, honestly, at this point in the U.S., I feel like it's just become so pervasive that people's almost like natural inclination to be anti. I mean, not like right at birth, but if you just grow up in America for 10 years, you're going to be like anti-socialist like immediately.
Pretty much.
You know what I mean?
Then like you'll
Yeah,
learn
like
like so if someone tells you what socialism is, and you'll be like, oh, I like that. Well, you don't tell them it's socialism, and they'll agree with like everything you say. It's pretty hilarious.
yeah. I don't know. Yeah, it's kind of it is a really really fascinating, to be honest. I was gonna say, what were your thoughts on the sort of Contro's new video then?
Envy. I like the first half was pretty boring. Like she
Yeah,
more or less discussing the top like envy and stuff. My favorite part was when she was talking about morality, like slave and master morality.
stuff like Nietzsche.
From Nietzsche, yeah.
Yeah,
Like how Christianity is based on slave morality because they're subjugated by the Romans.
yeah.
Yeah, so it's like a
Oh,
rebellion against the Roman conqueror morality, the master morality.
yeah. I always found it kind of interesting too. How that's like part of Nietzsche's philosophy, right?
Yeah, that's why
So like,
one of the reasons why
yeah,
fascists love Nietzsche so much.
yeah. I was gonna say, I don't know. I guess I, I like agree with a lot of her like premises per se, but I feel like she comes at it from like, and I guess I'm not even too sure like what she's like trying to posit in the video, because like she just like like she makes like a case that like like a lot of people are driven by like envy and like resentment, but like how does that apply? I guess to like are we supposed to learn and apply anything to like class struggle? As like I don't know, as leftists.
Yeah, because like I remember if I remember correctly, she was talking about how like it seems like like the right says leftist politics is based on resentment of like the wealthy
Yeah,
and like envy, but that doesn't really see like I don't really see class conflict in like the whole struggle between the working class and the owner class as an envious relationship. Most people don't really care about like that sort of stuff. They just want to be treated fairly and have a good normal life. Like
yeah,
like people aren't really envious of the rich. Well, some people want to be famous. Like their whole thing with like because you don't really have crime unless there's like serious inequalities between populations. That's where like envy would come in my opinion. Like
yeah. Yeah, well, I guess it's definitely envy, but I guess you can almost call it like crime in that setting is almost rational to a sense, right? Because it's like the system is visibly rigged against you, so you almost have to go against the rules of the system to survive,
yeah, because you're like I'm struggling. I need money right now. Hey, I know there's some rich
Yeah,
people down the street and I can pawn their stuff.
yeah. It's almost like logical, but I guess like I think like I see. I mean, she says this in the video, but I guess I feel like there's obviously a number of different reasons why someone would go to like leftist politics. I mean, I feel like the Marxist analysis almost comes from a place of like more so rationality than, not to be like condescending, but then like a sense of envy. Because I mean, it's like there's like there's like a inherent dynamic where you're being like, I'm trying to say, like like the labor theory of value, like you're getting your labor
Yeah, you're literally being
expropriated.
robbed.
Yeah, exactly. So it's like, I mean, you're only taking what's rightfully yours per se.
It kind of seems like she was critiquing the whole the whole. Actually, now that I think about it, she's critiquing all of like Marx's analysis with that video. She's basically saying it's based off of envy.
That's what I saw too. I mean, it's weirdly almost like I don't know. I mean, I just don't even know what to make of it. Like, I just don't even. Like, I'm not even sure. I'm not sure what her conclusion really is. I mean, obviously she says she's a leftist, but is she like is she critiquing? Like, is she saying we should be envious? Shouldn't be envious? Like, I actually don't really. I don't really know. You know?
Well, I think it's because her politics are more liberal. So
Yeah.
from like a because it's unhealthy for a liberal society with like a lot of class conflict and like envious behavior, I guess.
Yeah. Well, I guess she's saying to be like. What were you gonna say?
I was gonna say because like it's a sin in like Christianity to be envious, which is pretty.
7 deadly sins.
Yeah.
Yeah. It definitely seems like she is almost. I guess. It seems like almost a crux of her argument is to be like weary of movements led by envy, because she makes the claim, at least, that it's like, oh, if you're envious of, I don't know, the king or queen or Jeff Bezos, before you know it, it's going to be like they're going to be skeptical of everyone.
Oh yeah, because you're going to develop a distrust of the institutions of the society, which isn't good for democracy.
I don't know. I think it's kind of more of, she's kind of arguing a platitude than like, I don't know. I don't think she necessarily demonstrated like that as being like an inherent truth in that video, you know?
Yeah, because like the whole she was cosplaying as Marie Antoinette.
Yeah, yeah. And I mean, I think it's like a fair point that that the character of Marie Antoinette isn't necessarily accurate, but I feel like to say, I mean, she made a claim that Marie Antoinette did like nothing wrong, which, I mean, I guess it depends on how you define wrong, but I mean,
well,
she was like, what are you gonna say?
Well, because like I guess you could put the blame more on King Louis and like him.
Yeah. Well, I guess how old was Marie Antoinette at that point?
I think that she was like in her 30s or 40s. I don't know. I know they got married young. I don't know how long they were old. I knew they got married in their teens.
I can like empathize with like her. I mean, she got in like, I guess like, I don't think you can consent to marriage when you're a kid. But I mean, like, if you are living off the like lives of the French population and like you're in, yeah, and they're starving and you're in this key role. I mean, it's kind of like the whole like, like if you're doing nothing in the system of injustice and like you're enacting injustice. I mean, I feel like it's pretty stark when you're in like feudal France and you're at the top of the like French monarchy.
Well, yeah, because like if you do nothing, you always side with the oppressor. You can't really choose. You always pick a side.
She's married to the oppressor. She is the oppressor.
Yeah, exactly. She is the oppressor. Well, Marie, because like if you think about it, she had to die because like every time you let the rulers and their kids survive, they come back with an army because they're literally heading to Austria so she can get help from her like family to retake the France.
Yeah, no, I agree. I mean, I'm sorry. I mean, I think for historical accuracy, it's definitely good to note that she never said "let them eat cake." I did hear that before, but like, I mean, for all intents and purposes, like, I mean, I don't know, I wasn't in France in the late 1700s, but like, I don't know, I agree. I think like monarchs, like for the revolution to be fulfilled and to like be secure, unfortunately, gotta go.
Well, the thing is, if I remember correctly, they were going to keep them alive until they ran.
Yeah. I don't know the exact details, but that does sound about right.
Yeah, it's been a while since I read about the French Revolution or like in history class. But I'm pretty sure their plan was more or less to keep them alive, but then they decided to run and get help.
Yeah. Oh, I just got a chat saying no.
Maybe.
From no, sorry. But what was there? Yeah, no. So that was kind of an odd, just kind of tangent in her video to justify. It's just like I feel like like I mean, I feel like broadly on the left, we can agree that like taking down the French monarchy and the French Revolution was a good thing. I feel like everyone across the board.
It's like the greatest thing that happened in like for like liberalism in general. Like
yeah. I mean, it was a liberal movement nonetheless. So it's just like really weird.
It's a weird critiquing the French Revolution as a liberal
yeah. If you claim to be like a left wing of liberalism, yeah, just very odd. Um, and then yeah, I saw like, I mean, obviously I have my biases, another bias, but um, I think her caricature of the USSR and China was also a bit I don't know, unfair per se.
Didn't
What do you
she,
think?
if I remember correctly, wasn't it the meme that they all starved or whatever?
Yeah. And she's like,
Yeah,
oh,
like
you're gonna start like
they didn't improve the material conditions. But the
kind of
thing
like
is though, like if you, well, it's funny. Like when you actually do research in like all the Eastern Bloc and like communist states, they have like the
yeah,
highest levels of like literacy, education, health, and like up until like I think it was like the 70s, like up till like there was the stagnation in the Soviet Union. Everyone's lives in like all the Eastern Bloc was way better.
yeah. Like a
And
lot
like
better. I mean, it went from
I was gonna
it
say
was something like what are you gonna say?
also too in North Korea they had a higher standard of living and a higher GDP than South Korea until the 80s.
Exactly. I mean, you always have to go from like what was I don't know. What I always say is you have to compare what was there before, what was it similar to at the time, and I guess your ideals thirdly. And maybe the USSR didn't live up to like her ideals, but if you go from what was it before, it was Tsarist Russia, right? The literacy rate was like I think it was like 20% give or take,
Yeah, it was
which
only
then
the
rises to like,
aristocracy who were educated.
yeah, which goes to like, and I think even 12%, I forget, but anyway, it goes to 100% like within a few decades. Its economy was about roughly the same as Brazil, like it was like barely industrialized and like mostly peasant farmers. And I think throughout the 20th century, it excelled past Brazil in terms of like economics and like standards of living. Um, and I mean, same with China. I mean, like if you like look at China before, I don't know, like Mao made mistakes. We need to be honest about that. But there were like cyclical famines every 10 years, and like China was run by like warlords and was colonized by fascist Japan and colonized by the Western powers as well. And I mean,
Especially fucking Britain. They got them
especially
addicted to
fucking Britain.
opium. Like,
Especially fucking Britain. There's 100 years of 100 years of shame or whatever they call it.
yeah, of the 100 years of embarrassment or whatever.
Yeah, I think there's I don't know. I think it's like there are a lot of liberals and like fascists obviously. They'll like look at China and be like, oh, it was so much better in the old days. Like look at Shanghai, it used to be the Paris of the East. But I think there's some stat where it's like 1 out of 5 people in Shanghai were like addicted to opium and like loosely homeless prior to the Chinese Revolution.
They had a thing called Shanghaiing someone, and where you kidnap them and put them on a boat and like as a sailor.
Yeah, it was like Las Vegas, but like worse. Like,
Exactly.
it was like things are really like I was just like I mean things are really fucking bad. I don't know. I mean these are tangents, but I think it's just like I don't know. It's just
Well, like
it is.
well, because you basically said like every revolution ends in like misery. That happened like
Yeah.
But if you take like the colored revolutions, it objectively, when they liberalize, actually objectively made like lives worse for everyone there.
Especially
And the Eastern
across the
Bloc.
Eastern Bloc.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I think it's
Czechoslovakia became like the second largest hub for child trafficking and child prostitution after the communist bloc fell.
Chris. I didn't even know that. That was so sad. But yeah, no. I mean, I mean, her whole thing is kind of like an ode or argument to like
An ode to reformism.
like, an ode to reformism and just kind of like being realistic. But then she completely just I don't know. I'm trying to say what other way could Russia and the Soviet Union or China have developed the way they did if it wasn't for the revolutions they had? I just don't even know what she was like trying to argue there. It was.
I think they think maybe they would end up being like a constitutional monarchy like in the West. Probably not. Probably would have been a fucking absolute monarchy like Saudi Arabia or Thailand.
Yeah. I mean, if you look at China, I mean, it's hard to say. I mean, they were the Qing dynasty, and you had like Chiang Kai-shek. I mean, I'm not sure Chiang Kai-shek was very tenable, but I mean, yeah, he was just like a brutal, verging on fascist dictator. The liberal democracy wasn't really working out. I mean, I don't think like China wouldn't have been really tenable as like a liberal democracy it was like just so big, so vast, and it was so like impoverished.
Yeah, there would have been uprisings constantly.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, if we want to compare China to like India, the world's so-called largest democracy, well, I mean, they've elected the fascists.
More people died in India than like all of like the Soviet Union famines before World War II.
Exactly. So I don't know. I think it's a little bit of a liberal delusion to completely write off like just completely and utterly write them off as like failed attempts at utopia.
India's still a pretty terrible place to live now. Even they have like inequality and like poverty. Like India's not developed at all in like most regions.
They still have the caste system.
They do, yeah. It's kind of, I think it's like illegal. Like they have benefits to help like the lower classes, like the untouchables.
Yeah.
But it's still very much there. And now there's like a little addition of white supremacy, because like if you Indian media like prefers like light-skinned Indians and like Indians mixed with like British people.
Yeah. Well, there's also a whole issue of like Hindu nationalism, where it's called like Hindu Svata or something. I'm talking about.
Where they more or less want to get rid of all the Muslims and Christians. Well, Christians to a lesser extent, but the Muslims mostly.
Yeah, which has gone like really, really bad. I don't know. Like, I don't know. I'm not saying like 100 points are arguing for this, but like I just can't see how she just writes off like the Marxist Leninists or honestly any leftist revolution around the world.
Well, it's because if you just live off of U.S. property, like, so basically in history, like in U.S., the only thing you ever learn about like the communist states is how many people they killed.
Yeah, I think that's excusable if you're like 15. Excusable for a lot of people. If you're 15, yeah. If you're like ContraPoints, what did she complete your PhD or did she do half a PhD?
I think she got.
I don't know. I don't know. Yeah, she's a very highly educated, like white woman in America who grew up in one of the I think she grew up in top 5 wealthiest counties in America. So I like the and she's like what, in her 30s?
Yeah, exactly.
Like the excuse kind of falls flat if you're the biggest like leftist platform on YouTube.
Well, I think she's trying to become more of a centrist like icon, I guess, maybe.
A centrist icon?
Centrist icon.
Is she going like the Ellen DeGeneres route?
Maybe.
Is she really moving? Is that what she claims to be a centrist?
No, she doesn't.
Oh, okay. Well, I mean, that's what's so like suspect about her. I don't know, because I feel like previously I think she did really well at de-radicalizing a lot of people who are on the verge of going far right, but now it's kind of like pigeonholing people into this like kind of these like centrist, like pro-democrat positions. Come 2021.
I think that's like literally her position the whole time though.
Yeah. I mean, fair enough. I think it just speaks a lot about her.
Well, it makes sense if the system mostly works for you and there's some minor critiques you have.
It's just like the hypocrisy. The hypocrisy to just like to know so much and have the freedom to have the access to all this information and just like not engaging with it,
True, but maybe she just really hates all of the cat girls on Twitter who angrily quote Marx at her or something.
Fair enough. It's just frustrating. So frustrated with her.
Yeah, the whole utopian critique of Marxist revolutions.
Who was, Marx never considered utopianism.
Even though like Engels wrote a whole thing, utopianism.
Yeah, socialism is scientific
socialism versus utopianism.
Yeah. I guess. What do you think of the other BreadTubers compared to ContraPoints? Do you think they are similar, or do you think ContraPoints is an exception to the rule there?
They don't seem to make as much political content as much anymore.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, honestly, for in terms of bread tubers, me, yeah, it's just Philosophy Tube who doesn't really make political content anymore.
Well, she made
Uh,
her. I like the social construct video. That was like pretty political, to be honest. Well, like
oh, I
subject.
mean, I've actually watched it. I mean, I did actually watch that, but it's like political, like not like it's like political and like it's political, but it's not like engaging with like what was it on? It was on like social constructs, right?
Yeah, like
Which is it's inherently very political, but it wasn't engaging with like socialism versus capitalism. I feel like.
well, that's engaging with like more social issues, like that are.
Yeah. Equally as important, but and then Sean, he doesn't really make videos.
His have been more
Much
like
more.
historical, to be honest.
Yeah, I think Sean. I think he's honestly like a democratic socialist, probably, or a social democrat. But I think he's pretty
I heard,
consistently left
I
wing.
heard Kraut call him a Marxist, but Kraut used to be one of the skeptics.
Okay. I won't be surprised if Sean's a Marxist. I think there's a lot of Marxists in the UK who are like,
Oh, well,
I
have you
don't know,
seen Sean's tweets?
orthodox
He like
Marxists.
pisses off Vosh so much. It's pretty funny, and pisses
Yeah,
off
yeah.
like
Sean's amazing.
like the other like the other socialists, the American
Yeah.
socialists. He pisses them off quite frequently with like his correct
Yeah.
takes.
that's why I hate like lumping in all of BreadTube together. It's like Vosh and fucking Destiny or whoever these other people are just so different than
The
like
debate bros.
like Sean, for instance. Yeah, the debate bros versus like some of the other people. Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah,
What do you think of? What are you gonna say?
I was gonna say because Sean has like a different now like usually has a different analysis on like topics compared to like Bosch or like Destiny or the other like more like liberal socialists, I guess you could call them.
I mean, Vosh is like a complete right winger, in my opinion.
He likes the,
I mean,
he says he likes freedom and markets, so
so yeah. I mean, what does that say?
well
I think he just.
well he's just a dangus.
Oh, what you? Oh, he's a dangus. He is.
Yeah. He's just a dangus.
He is indeed a dangus. Well, did you ever see a video where he actually described like dungism?
Yeah, he did. Like he accidentally went. He described his whole political philosophy as dang. Like it leads conclusively to dangism.
Yeah.
Is like you're the lone socialist country. You're gonna get fucked if you don't like start trading with everyone else and like have markets. So you have a market and you do social market socialism, and then like you build up strength and like increase the power of the socialist state so you can go off of markets later. Then like, isn't that what Dang said? Or something like that. Yeah.
Maybe Vosh is kind of based.
Well, because you also have like the market reforms in like Laos and Vietnam as well.
Yeah, and in Cuba, honestly, I mean, like, not as stark. I think even the DPRK actually had some loose market reforms as well.
I think someone argued
So it's been-
market reforms are what caused the Soviet Union to get worse.
The Perestroika?
Yeah.
Oh, 100%. Like 100%. I think that's what destroyed the Soviet Union. But I think, I couldn't give you a coherent answer why, but I feel like the situation was different in 1980s, 1990s Soviet Union versus China.
Well, because in the 80s and 90s, that's when China opened up to American capital.
Yeah. Also, what was it? What was Glasnost as well? Like Gorbachev was doing all the weird stuff, of, like trying to like democratize, quote unquote, the Soviet Union and whatnot.
He was Well, I watched this one video like earlier about myths about like the Soviet Union, and there's it was by like a normal like liberal. I don't know if he's liberal or not, but it was pretty like standard like. So he was saying like there's like one saying that all the leaders of the Soviet Union were like Stalin. He was like, no, they're all completely different. Like fuck, I forgot his name. The one in the 60s. He was a conservative.
Khrushchev?
Probably. He
Khrushchev?
Was yeah.
Yeah.
No, it was after Khrushchev.
Brezhnev?
Yeah, he was like conservative and caused a bunch of stagnation in the Soviet economy.
Yeah. No, they all are completely different. I need to study more of my Soviet history. The other is Khrushchev, who obviously denounced Stalin, de-Stalinized, and we had the whole like corn campaign. I think he definitely tried to westernize the Soviet Union a little bit. And Brezhnev, yeah, I honestly know. I've heard Brezhnev there was an history of like kind of Russian nationalism as well. I'm not too familiar with, but things definitely stagnated under Brezhnev. I've also heard that like Brezhnev was like the best era to be like alive in the Soviet Union, unless you were really like a huge fan of Stalin. You know what I mean? If that makes sense. Because that's like when I mean they're essentially mostly at peace. You know, Brezhnev was alive. Like they're putting stuff into space. Everyone had healthcare, like good education, like everything peaked under Brezhnev. It just got worse then.
Because it's funny, like if you look at so like the 60s and 70s were like the high point for all the Eastern Bloc states. But like in China, the 60s wasn't that like during the failed Cultural Revolution, like in the 60s?
Yeah. Depends who you ask if it failed, but yeah.
Like then Vietnam and Laos and like Cuba. Cuba was like in this mid 50s. Yeah, they all like, but you have like so like Laos and Vietnam happened in the 70s. So that gives them,
they're low points.
Yeah, well, no, that's when they got created. Yeah. So they have like more.
Yeah.
They have like more hindsight of like the Soviet and Eastern Bloc experiences.
Yeah, for sure.
And like what failed in China as well.
Yeah, I mean, come the 80s, I mean, China was just nowhere near as industrialized as the Soviet Union was. I mean, like, honestly, I think China, like, if you go, not that GDP is a measure of much, but I think GDP per capita was honestly poorer than, have you seen that? There was, like, poorer than, like, every other country in, like, Africa.
Yeah, which is crazy because of how many people live in China.
Yeah, exactly. And then, my thought's good. But yeah, the Soviet Union was doing quite well. But yeah, I don't know. I guess we're off topic here, but I guess do you have any on the broadly socialist countries? Do you have any ones that you are more partial towards?
Not particularly, but I've been doing more research about like Latin America lately because they've been electing socialists lately. Like Hugo Chavez, because I like was learning about Venezuela. I was like, oh shit, he was actually doing like a lot of the top down, like bottom to up power structures and like dual power. He was like, he like promoted communes and cooperatives. I was like, oh, that's pretty based.
Yeah. Honestly, I didn't even think too much. I didn't really realize recently the significance of like Hugo Chavez's like they did like the constitutional referendum, right? Or reform. I thought that was honestly pretty huge, and is a good argument towards, I guess, Venezuela being, I guess, socialist per se. They literally like replaced the state's constitution with a new constitution, like drafted by the people.
I think they're heading towards like a socialist state because they have like a lot of socialist, like actual socialist aspects where you have like communal ownership, like the abolishment of private property. Yeah. They're heading towards like an actual like a phase one, like, you know, the different phases of socialism and Marxism, but like an actual socialist. Because people like to they'll have because it looks like they're actually moving towards like a decentralized, like an anarchist sort of libertarian socialist place, you know.
For sure. Honestly, you probably find you might honestly find the Cultural Revolution stuff interesting in China, because honestly they had a lot of communes and stuff under Mao as well.
Yeah, I read about that. They didn't really work out because of like one thing I read is because people were afraid of like their productivity numbers looking bad or something.
And they're the Great Leap Forward.
Yeah.
Well, the issue there, and I mean, not a Chinese expert, but I've heard this goes deeper than like socialism as a kind of a cultural issue. But it was like the Eastern Coast, which actually never even experienced like the famine at all. I think they actually had a surplus during those years. But on the Western halves, it was very like bureaucratic. And let's say like Mao was like, I need you guys, or the top committee was like, I need like this province to produce like 50 grains of wheat, and we're going to take like 10 of them. And then they're actually only producing 20 and saying they produce like 60. And then like the coast were still taking like 10. You know what I mean? So they had like no fucking grain. in the Western provinces, and it was, I don't know, it was honestly the whole thing was like super awful, and they just really messed up.
I think there's
in
like
terms
an
of
argument to be
agriculture.
made about like you don't want to have too much centralization and like in a state, but at the same time, centralization tends to work better for economies and the state and countries in general.
Yeah, yeah.
It's about like
Um,
finding the right balance.
it's a dialectic as always,
Yeah,
but yeah, for sure.
I think
Uh,
Rojava is pretty interesting. I'm not really sure where that's heading to.
yeah, me as well. Me as well. Honestly, I can't even comment on. Oh wait, Rojava. I was thinking of Chiapas. Rojava
Yeah,
is interesting, but I guess I'm curious, like what Rojava will look like, when if and when the U.S. leaves Syria.
didn't they already leave or whatever? Well, no, they
I,
left like the Rojava part of Syria, but like they're in like the other
yeah,
parts of
yeah, but
Syria.
there's
Yeah,
still there's still other parts of Syria. Yeah, but I mean like once, yeah, they're completely out.
yeah, because Rojava wants their whole like experiment to become the model of the Syrian state.
Yeah, I mean, I'd say I props to them. I hope things work out, but I do have to criticize um, Rojava at the same time.
Yeah,
See, in terms of working with like U.S. imperialists. I also heard there's the issue of like Kurdish nationalism as well.
I have an issue with like all nationalism, so
Yeah, yeah. Well, the issue there, I think, is because it's like, what did I say? Like, it depends how your nationalism works out. Because like with the Kurdish nationalism, there's like other ethnic groups like the Assyrians,
yeah, there's other
and
ethnic
Kurdish.
minorities in that area.
Yeah, yeah, and they're trying to make like a Kurdish like ethnic. Not saying that it's supposed to be doing, but it's like it's very a bit chauvinist towards the
The
ethnic
Kurds.
minorities.
Yeah,
Yeah,
because
yeah,
you have like Kurdistan in Iraq, and you have Rojava in Syria. Like they're all each
yeah,
autonomous regions. Then you have like
yeah.
Turkey
There's
actively suppressing the Kurds in
yeah.
Turkey.
I mean, full support to the Kurds in Turkey as well.
Oh yeah, then there's the Kurds in Iran.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. It's like I mean, 30 million Kurdish people, I think.
Yeah, they're like the largest
Approximately.
minority, like the largest ethnic group without a nation state.
Yeah, yeah. But I always feel like the argument does have a bit of like an ethno-state argument to it.
Yeah, like because if people are also living there, they're not a part of that ethnicity. So either you have to force them to change their own culture to have a homogenized ethnic identity for the nationalism to work, or you fracture
Exactly,
if your
exactly.
state's based on nationalism,
Yeah,
or you do a little
I,
genocide and ethnic cleansing.
yeah. Which honestly, I don't know if I'm pretty sure historically, and this is a claim that's contested, but of the Kurds being involved with like the genocide towards the Assyrians in the past.
I wouldn't be surprised. Well, because did they help Turkey or whatever in the
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
because Turkey was
That is a claim.
genociding like all the Christians and like Armenians, Greeks and stuff.
Yeah, yeah,
Because they were trying to Turkify Anatolia and that whole region and the Ottoman Empire.
yeah, yeah. Not okay stuff at all.
Yeah, that's the issue with like nationalism. To be honest,
Yeah,
like
yeah,
you're either one of us, or we have to get rid of you.
yeah. And it always depends on there are different forms of said nationalism. I think like essentially all ethno nationalism
There
is
could be a
very
case to
bad.
be made for like a civic nationalist state.
Yeah, I think like a revolutionary nationalism. Like if it's a nationalism against like a colonizer nation.
Yeah, but that the thing is that they usually leads with you always have like class collaboration, and then you just have the same bourgeoisie system, unless you two birds one stone it.
For sure, for sure.
Kind of like because with Cuba and China, I'm surprised like after World War II, the U.S. wasn't more heavily involved in China.
I'm not a total expert on this topic, but the U.S. actually did try a lot with China, I think,
They
because
gave,
they
a,
really,
they gave a lot of support to the nationalists, didn't they?
yeah, for sure, for sure. Oh, you thought that you were surprised they didn't like try and like overthrow China more?
Pretty much.
There's
Because
something,
so you know how they divvied up Europe? I'm surprised. Like
yeah,
they, well, I guess it makes sense because the U.S. didn't really go inside China during World War II, did they?
no, yeah, China like liberated themselves.
Yeah, because they did the island hopping and they like liberated the islands, then headed to the main Japan.
And yeah,
Japanese
and turned them
island.
all into
Yeah.
military bases. But yeah, no, China liberated themselves, and the Soviets like helped out in Manchuria as well. But there was a time where the U.S. was like hoping, because if you look back in the history, there's a lot of like obviously there's a Sino-Soviet split.
Yeah.
So there are a lot of like weird times where it was like China and the U.S. would take the same side against the Soviets, and then I might be mixing up my dates here, but obviously come the 80s, you know, I don't know, 70s, 80s is the opening up policies. So it really seemed like China was like kind of moving towards like a bourgeois democratic, or just like a U.S. client state at least. And obviously, that's not how things have panned out at all. But I guess even like, what are you gonna say?
I think it could have happened if the Communist Party were too lax with the American capital.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I think it's really fortunate that we are where we are today. You know, not to be complete Dongo star or whatever, but it's fortunate that you know the CPC is still around today, because things could be a lot worse.
That's true.
But yeah, no, obviously, I mean, the U.S. has always been really tied to Taiwan. And I think kind of we saw, but Biden has had that huge deal with Taiwan as well. Did you see that?
I didn't see that, but I'm not surprised.
Like, so it's like $700 million or something, for, like weapons or something. Yeah.
Because I know Trump was selling them a shit ton of weapons as well, and like Trump was like the first president in like 50 years to call the Taiwanese president. Like after his election,
yeah.
Like that, yeah. I know during the Korean War, they thought about dropping a shit ton of nukes on the Chinese, like, Korean border to ensure China couldn't help North Korea.
I think they even considered it an invasion, like, around the Korean War time.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think I don't think the U.S. has, I think it's too hard for the U.S. to invade China, because like the People's Liberation Army is like just like so large, and China is so large. It'd be like invading Russia.
Yeah, because it's at this point the U.S. like people always say China and the U.S. can go to war, but the U.S.'s military is like heavily privatized.
Yeah.
Like it's mostly made up of contractors.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, no, it is interesting times. I'm really curious. You know, I'm totally off the ball here, but I'm just so curious what Taiwan will be in like 10, 20 years. Because it seems like very...
how the elections go in Taiwan. Because there's one section that wants more connection with China, and the other one wants independence.
That's so weird, because like the right-wing party in Taiwan wants closer ties with China. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Because it's money. That's a huge...
money. It's for the economy, yeah.
Yeah, because there's like a huge market right there.
Exactly. And you kind of have like essentially the Democrats, the DPP in Taiwan are the pro-independence. But I mean, I know you see a lot of like libs in America who are super like, oh, you know, like Taiwan's its own country. Like look at the Olympics, they can't even like use their name. But it is kind of goofy because like
considers themselves their own country.
Exactly. Yeah, Taiwan doesn't recognize themselves. And I think like it was Jiang Jingguo, like Chiang Kai-shek's son, chose Chinese Taipei like as the Olympic team name because he didn't want to like give any credence to like Taiwan as an individual like nation. So it's like the Chinese government in Taipei is like the Olympic name.
That's pretty cool, actually.
Yeah, I mean it's interesting. Fuck the KMT, obviously. But
Because
yeah,
Taiwan
no,
was a dictatorship for like 20, 30 years, wasn't it?
it was a brutal dictatorship. Yeah, it lasted until like 1989,
Yeah,
I
because like
think.
all those countries that the U.S. propped up in East Asia were all brutal dictatorships, with like South
Yeah,
Korea,
yeah.
Taiwan.
South Korea, yeah, Taiwan, yeah, Indonesia,
Yeah,
Suharto.
and like
Yeah, that's
the U.S. propping up the dictatorships in Latin America as well during the 80s and
yeah, yeah,
70s.
and Africa, I'll do it too.
Yeah, true.
I think Taiwan didn't even have another party get elected until like 2002, if I'm right. And honestly, Japan's pretty weird too, because they've pretty much been one party rule since World War II as well.
There's a lot of oh, you know what's really interesting? Singapore, their political system.
But they are also one party rule.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, no, but no one ever talks about that.
Like, fun fact: Mexico was one party rule for like until like the year 2000.
Yeah, I think I also knew that. Yeah. Yeah.
And it's funny because they like went through a whole bunch of different ideologies.
Yeah, well, they were a monarchy, and then were they a monarchy?
No, like it was I think it's called, I forgot what it's called, but I think it's they were called like the Revolutionary Party. They were like,
Yeah.
they went from being sock-dems to like neoliberals.
Yeah. Oh, that's interesting. Well, I mean, like, honestly, look at the Chinese, like, the Communist Party of China. I mean, it's, like, ideologically transformed so much over the last, like, I don't know, century.
You know what's pretty cool is Portugal, after like the fascists got overthrown in the 60s or 70s.
Yeah.
With like the help of the military, and then like they had elections, and so they elected like so the president they elected, they tried to coup him immediately, but he beat the coup, so he enacted a shit ton of socialist policies. He nationalized a bunch of like businesses, strengthened the unions, like had like universal health care.
I didn't know that.
Like fun fact: in Portugal, the right-wing party is called the SOCDEMs, the Social Democrats.
That's really funny. But I think, you know, there's an interesting part to that story, too. Did you know, like, what was, I think, like, the catalyst towards, like, the movements in Portugal?
If I remember correctly, so there's a bunch of so I was watching this video by Kraut, and he was saying how Portuguese workers were in France and they learned to strike, and like picked up French culture about striking, and they took that back to Portugal.
Yeah, but I think there's an additional aspect where it was the military was fighting in the national liberation wars in Africa, and you had like a Cabral and like Guinea-Bissau, you know, like giving these like Marxist speeches, and he was kind of like radicalizing the military while they're in Africa, and they're getting like their ass beats in like Mozambique and Angola and Guinea-Bissau, and they come home to this like fascist dictatorship in Portugal.
Because the Portuguese military is like super left wing.
Yeah, but the military ended up being super left wing. So that's an interesting aspect of like how like the colonies end up impacting the center,
the
colonizer, the oppressor. Yeah.
Because I mean, you streak, you pick up aspects from the people you colonize.
Exactly. I mean, obviously, it doesn't work as well in the U.S., but I guess you can see that in the different like anti-war movements, for example.
Yeah, with like Vietnam and stuff.
Yeah, I mean, even if you consider, like, I mean, like the oppression of Palestine to be an extension of like U.S. imperialism. I mean, even like, I don't know, like the Students for Justice in Palestine was one of the first like left-wing groups I was kind of involved with.
Yeah, because the U.S. is like the main military benefactor of Israel.
Yeah, in terms of like, I don't know, like
everything.
Finance, everything. Yeah.
Because Israel could have been better, because like they had the Soviet support in the beginning as well, but then like they went to ethno-nationalism like hardcore.
See, I disagree, and I think the Soviets messed up. Because I mean, like, yes, they were radical, but I feel like, you know, there was always the contradiction that they were like trying to set up a settler state.
Well, yeah, exactly.
On Palestine.
Because like whenever you have nationalism in general too.
Yeah. I just like, I don't know. I just like, maybe I'm wrong here, but I just don't think I think like I can't see like a settler society ever
Yeah, because
like
you're always
going
gonna have to
left wing.
genocide the local populace, like
Exactly. I mean, genocide in itself is pretty
reactionary.
reactionary. Yeah, yeah,
Well, cause I don't know. Could you ever so in communism, there's gonna be no borders and people are allowed to travel wherever. And
yeah,
so do you like people will be moving around and like all the nationalities and stuff will disappear?
yeah. No, I think it's one of those things where it's like it's so far ahead before you even like look see it. I don't think there's like obviously I'm not opposed to like freedom of movement and like all that. I mean, I'm a mixed person myself. But like I think the issue is obviously when you have like an oppressor nation that is looking to like clear the populace that had been living there, like the indigenous population for their own like benefit.
Yeah, it could have been like
Um,
well, my point is like I mean
yeah,
in the beginning because they had like a strong like left like socialist and like left wing movement in Israel.
yeah. Was it the kibbutz or whatever?
Yeah,
Yeah.
or like if but they were never gonna win because of how reactionary the whole settler state would be.
Yeah, I just like I honestly not the expert on Israeli history either, but I know it goes like it all starts with what Herzl, right?
I'm not really sure to be honest.
I don't know. Anyways, I mean, but I think like so this goes back to like the Zionist movement goes back to like the late 1800s, where it's like
They wanted to
Herzl
get
and
rid
then
of all the
like
Jews in Europe.
yeah, well he was he Jewish? I think he was Jewish. He was Jewish.
Well, I mean,
He's not
like the
Jewish.
main support from Zionism was from like Britain getting rid of the Jews
Oh,
and live in Britain.
yeah. I mean, there's fascist support for Zionism originally, but I think the project of Zionism early on was also to like colonize
It's a
like
combination of
Israel.
nationalism and colonization, to be honest.
Yeah. I think even Herzl himself actually wasn't like deeply religious. It was more of like
And ethno nationalism.
yeah, yeah.
Like
And I think
there was also like a one theory someone told me is like the reason why Arab socialism didn't work out is because they lost the war to Israel in like 1968, like super badly.
that was interesting. That was interesting.
Because like
I
you had Iraq who had like the Ba'ath Party who was socialist. You had Syria's
yeah,
like then you had like the Socialist Party in like
Nasser
Egypt.
in Egypt.
Yeah,
Yeah, I mean, if it wasn't for Israel, I mean, I'm sure things would have worked out very differently in um, MENA or West Asia / North Africa. But I don't know. I feel like I myself have like mixed feelings on Arab socialism.
yeah, because it's kind of weird nationalism.
Yeah, and once again, it's a similar thing with I think it's a similar thing with because there's like a ton of different like
There's a shit ton of different ethnic
minority
groups
groups.
in like that area.
Yeah, in that whole fucking region.
Yeah, because
Yeah,
like they've lived there
and
for like centuries and like millennia.
yeah,
Various different empires rising and falling,
credit
people moving around.
credit to where it's due, the Ba'ath Party and the different like Arab socialist movements, I think were better than what was there previously and better than what is there now often. So, by my own standards, I'll give them that. But there was besides like I'm just claiming to be like Arab nationalists, there was a lot of like chauvinism towards like the Almazeh or like other different minority groups
There was like,
and like African groups.
like Arab nationalism has weird links to the Nazi Party.
Yeah. And I mean, like, I don't know, I'm trying to think. I mean, all of them were, I think, in their own right, like Bonapartists, like Nasser. I don't know. I'll stick with Nasser.
Because it's pretty, like, it's weird. Like, there's a whole bunch of different, like, socialist experiments in, like, countries throughout history that you never really hear about, especially in, like, Africa and Asia.
Yeah.
You only hear about, like,
For
the
sure.
worst ones.
In the Caribbean, Maurice Bishop.
No, I mean, like, because you have, like, Sankara, and he was, like, was a really good ruler, and, fuck, what was it called? You're named after
Of
him.
Burkina Faso. Yeah.
Yeah, like, there's various different, like, there was different communist countries in Africa. And you never even hear about.
Yeah.
You never hear about Africa in general, to be honest.
No, I mean it's a weird thing where it's like the libs always pull. I guess it's just this will be a broad convo podcast, but the libs always pull that game of like, look at what socialism does, like X country, but it's never like what does capitalism do to X country.
Yeah, and it's
I mean,
literally the
you
same
can look
picture
at
of the same country.
yeah, exactly. I mean,
Or like the
DRC.
socialist leaders in the country, the workers. Then it's like Brazil. He's like, I live in that city. That's fucking Brazil. We're very capitalist.
Yeah, no, literally.
Or
Yeah,
you can like take a picture of Detroit. Oh yeah, that one meme. You have
yeah,
Detroit in Pyongyang.
yeah, and it's like, oh, haha. Um, but yeah, no, I mean, no one ever talks about any of the successes of socialism, which is kind of odd because honestly, there were quite a few successes from socialism.
Well, the libs do talk about like the successes of socialism. They bring up social democracies in like East and like North, like the
Nordic countries.
Yeah, the Scandinavian countries and like France, and it's like they're like based on reformist revisionists.
Yeah, or the other point I'll usually hear brought up, they'll be like, oh yeah, these countries did this, but they like had to kill millions of people to do that.
Yeah, but then they ignore all the facts that about like capitalism in general, how life expectancy drops to like when capitalism was first like growing in like England, life expectancy dropped down to like the 30s.
I didn't even know that. It's so interesting. Yeah.
Like in those towns that first developed factories of capitalism, so life expectancy dropped down to 30s.
I think, have you ever heard of like what was it called? What was it called? The Caliban book?
Oh, I heard about it. I've been meaning to read it.
Yeah, I need to read that as well. I've heard that's an interesting critique of Marx because like Marx loosely posits that capitalism is I mean, I think it's like I think capitalism is necessary through like a historical materialist lens, but there are a few aspects where it is like worse than feudalism per se.
Well, because people justify markets and capitalism by saying you need the innovation and the free movement of like investment and capital to increase society, but if you really think about it, what actually was happening in these countries is like they had like you can basically think Napoleon for more or less inventing the public school system. More people were getting educated, and that increased productivity.
Well, that's really interesting. I didn't even know that. Yeah.
Like that's like my theory. Like so pretty much, like the Industrial Revolution and like capitalism in general goes back to the Black Death, where like half of Europe's population like just gone. So they had a huge
there's more class ability.
Yeah, they had a huge surplus of food, and like they were able to like they were forced to give people better wages, like improved lifestyles, and people were able to like learn new things and like actually study.
Yeah.
You had the whole Renaissance where they received the after so you know when the Ottomans conquered Constantinople, a lot of Byzantines and Greeks moved west, and they brought like all the knowledge and like Arab texts as well to the Western countries. Yeah, where they more or less rediscovered old knowledge.
Yeah, exactly.
Like you can see, like basically my point is productivity increases and innovation increases with education.
Yeah, it's all inseparable. I guess from also the Marxist lens is kind of like the necessary, like there's like I guess they're like what am I trying to say? There are significant changes that needed to take place between like feudal Europe and like capitalist Europe, like the enclosure of the commons, for example, or like getting rid of the peasantry to become workers in the factories, which I guess I feel like factories are like obviously more productive than like a feudal like farm, you know?
Yeah.
But also comes to is like the colonialism, which is like a looting of Africa and India and the rest of Asia and Latin America.
Like private property is like generally an evil thing, to be honest.
Yeah. I mean, it's hard to... I see what you're saying, like all the benefits of capitalism come from like almost the more socialistic aspects of the last few centuries.
Well, like the
But
liberal idea of meritocracy and free public education.
yeah, which isn't necessarily a capitalist value.
Yeah, and the whole thing, the reason why democracy rose is because increased education. To have the only way absolute monarchies work is if you have an uneducated poor population.
Yeah,
Like that's easier to
yeah, for sure.
pacify than like a highly educated
Yeah, it's
productive
like,
force.
and what about all these monarchies in Europe still?
Well, the people keep telling me they're not really monarchies. They're just
Yeah,
full of shit, though.
yeah. Um,
Oh yeah, and
but
like they always point to the social democratic monarchies as like how socialism is working.
yeah, these monarchies that happen to have very ethno-chauvinist values and imperialistic policies are
Exactly.
the crux of human civilization.
And you have to reject your national identity. To be honest,
Yes,
it's
yeah,
oh yeah, you know what
okay.
too? So like more people have been getting. So before people only graduated like in middle school or dropped out.
Yeah,
Then people started graduating and making it to high school, being better educated, and I think
yeah,
that also helped with increased productivity in America as well. Because people with more access to education, you have more access to resources. Like the increased wealth in the U.S. allows people to be more educated and have access to more resources, so they're better able to innovate and create things. But without education, you really have nothing in any society.
yeah. I guess it depends on like the. I think yeah, in the U.S. context, like education increases productivity, but it's like if you're like how am I trying to say? Like I don't know what I'm trying to say. I guess like ideally education is always like obviously is always better, but I guess like if you are like the Roman slave state, like you want, like you said, you want your population to be as uneducated as possible.
Yeah, so you
Like
only
keep
like
them,
will
yeah,
educate the aristocracy and the lords.
yeah. And your productivity is like the pure like blood and sweat of the labor.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
Like it's in the interest of a democracy to educate its populace. To be
yeah,
honest, well, unless
yeah,
you're the bourgeois, like the bourgeoisie or the upper classes, in your interest to keep them as stupid as possible, but educated
yeah,
enough to produce for you.
yeah. But at the end of the day, what does democracy always serve?
the more or less the ruling class, because they have the
Exactly,
money and
exactly.
means to influence everyone.
And I think there's also an aspect in capitalism that democracy is necessary in like bourgeois society because yeah, obviously as you know you have like different factions of the bourgeois. So as you see in like any U.S. election, they all have different candidates between the two parties that the two factions which they break down into
Yeah, but
and
even
then
then,
mind towards.
the various bourgeois elements support both parties, and like some people
Of
support,
course,
yeah, but like
yeah,
hedge their bets and pick different candidates for different elections. Though.
exactly, to try and get what they want out of the party.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah,
then you
yeah,
have like poor countries that have like one resource they're exporting. They don't need educated citizens or like infrastructure. They just need to be able to export the diamond, oil, or whatever.
exactly,
Wars.
exactly.
So it's not in their interest to
Yeah.
educate or improve their society at all.